The fight started in total silence, a silence so heavy it could crush the air in your chest. Inside Rikers Island's C-74 unit, a correctional officer had just hit his alarm. Within seconds, red lights flashed down the corridor, reflecting off the cold concrete walls. 2 inmates lay on the floor, one bleeding from his head, the other gasping, his shirt torn apart. Officers shouted orders, but no one dared move. The cafeteria, once loud with trays clattering and voices echoing, went completely still. That was Rikers Island, New York City's notorious jail, where violence could erupt without warning. But hundreds of miles away in Chicago's Cook County Jail, a similar story was unfolding. Same steel bars, same tension, same fear. The only question was, which place was worse? The chaos at Rikers didn't start overnight. It had been building for years. Overcrowding, staff shortages, and constant tension between inmates and officers. Jamal, a 27-year-old detainee, had only been here for 2 weeks, but it already felt like a lifetime. He had come from Brooklyn on a petty theft charge, but Rikers didn't care about charges. Once you walked through its gates, you were just another number, another body in a system that couldn't hold itself together. On his second day, he saw a fight break out over a missing radio. By his 5th, an officer was hospitalized after being jumped in the hallway. Everyone had learned to read the signs. When the laughter stopped, something bad was about to happen. Meanwhile, in Chicago's Cook County Jail, a young man named Marcus faced a different kind of fear. His block was older, darker, and colder. The building smelled of disinfectant and steel. Unlike Rikers, Cook County was organized like a city, nearly 5,000 inmates spread across multiple divisions. Yet inside each, the rules were simple: stay with your own and stay alive. Marcus had heard about Rikers. Inmates there said it was like a war zone inside a hurricane. But at Cook County, things didn't explode all at once. Instead, the violence came in small, sharp bursts. A punch in the hallway, a shank found under a bunk, a scream in the distance that nobody ever asked about. One morning, Marcus was in line for breakfast when a fight broke out 2 tables away. By the time officers arrived, one man was bleeding heavily, another was unconscious. The officers formed a wall between the tables, shouting orders. But it was too late. Everyone had already seen it. Fear spread faster than the smell of the spilled food. Back in Rikers, Jamal sat in his cell staring at the cracked paint on the wall. His cellmate, Andre, had been inside for 6 months awaiting trial. "They don't care what you did, bro," Andre said quietly. "They only care if you survive long enough to leave." Every sound in the cell block meant something. Footsteps could mean inspection or trouble, and even the click of a gate could make hearts race. The air smelled of sweat, bleach, and stale food. Jamal tried to sleep but couldn't. Somewhere down the hall, someone was crying quietly. At Cook County, Marcus lay awake too, thinking about his family on the outside. The noise never stopped there either. Someone always yelling, doors clanging, guards giving orders. He had started marking days on the wall with a broken pencil stub. "Every line," he said to himself, "is one more day I made it." Both men were hundreds of miles apart, but their stories ran in parallel. Same fear, same noise, same endless waiting. At both jails, the fight for food could become a fight for life. Meals were never enough. A few spoons of beans, a piece of bread, a mystery patty. Men traded food like currency. In Rikers, Jamal watched as inmates argued over a sandwich. An officer shouted for order, but nobody listened. The shouting turned into shoving. Then, in a single second, someone slipped, someone swung, and the room erupted again. The alarm went off. Beep, beep, beep. Blinding red light filled the space. At Cook County, Marcus heard a similar alarm echo across his tier that same night. He couldn't see what happened, only that everyone went quiet. Then the lights went out. Someone yelled, "Lock it down." Doors slammed shut one by one. Across 2 cities, 2 jails, the same system repeated itself. Overcrowded cells. Exhausted guards. Broken rules. And the same look in every inmate's eyes, a mix of anger and fear. By midnight, both Jamal and Marcus sat awake on opposite sides of America, staring at the same kind of ceiling, wondering if they'd survive until morning. Then, just before lights out at Rikers, the officer on duty shouted for backup. The sound of boots pounded down the hallway. The entire tier froze. No one knew what was happening, only that it was bad. And as Jamal pressed his ear to the wall trying to listen, he heard it, a voice on the other side of the cell door whispering, "They got an officer." The siren wailed again. Lights turned red. And everything went dark. The siren echoed down the hallway, bouncing off concrete and metal like thunder trapped in a tunnel. Jamal's heart pounded in his chest as officers stormed the tier. "Lock it down." Everyone faced the wall, one of them shouted. The sound of boots, radios and metal doors clanging filled the air. Someone whispered from the next cell, "They jumped to CO." Jamal didn't want to believe it, but deep down he knew it was true. On Rikers Island that kind of thing didn't happen often, but when it did, everything changed. The officers moved fast, shouting orders and slamming doors. The air was thick with tension and the sharp smell of pepper spray. Jamal covered his mouth with his shirt as the mist drifted down the hall. He could barely see through the foggy cell window, but he heard everything: the yelling, the sound of someone being dragged, and the metal keys jingling like warning bells. Hours later the noise faded. The lights stayed red, flickering occasionally. Nobody talked. Nobody slept. When morning came the air was cold and still. The next shift of officers walked through slowly, their faces hard, their voices sharp. Breakfast was late, a cold sandwich and a small carton of milk. Jamal took a bite but it tasted like dust. "Things about to get real ugly," Andre said quietly, staring at the wall. "When one of them gets hit we all pay for it." That day Rikers felt even smaller. Recreation was cancelled. Visits were suspended. Even medical checkups were postponed. The only sound was the hum of the lights and the occasional buzz of the loudspeaker. Every man on the block knew it was punishment time. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, Marcus at Cook County Jail woke up to similar chaos. Word had spread fast: another fight in Division 9 overnight. 2 inmates hospitalized, 1 officer injured. The block was on lockdown. He sat on his bunk listening to the guards argue outside the door. "We don't get paid enough for this," one muttered. "They should have shut this place down years ago," said another. Marcus thought about Rikers. He'd seen news about it before, heard the stories from other inmates. But now he realized the difference was small. Rikers might have had more headlines, but Cook County had the same pain. Just quieter. At noon he was finally let out for 5 minutes to grab his food tray. The food was the same every day: mashed potatoes, a slice of bread, something they called meatloaf but didn't taste like it. Across the table 2 men argued about the last milk carton. Within seconds a chair scraped the floor. Then came a shout. Then a punch. Marcus froze as officers rushed in. One grabbed the men by their shirts, another yelled for backup. The whole room went still. It wasn't even about the milk, it was about everything else boiling beneath the surface. The hunger, the boredom, the anger, the fear. Back at Rikers the officers were still on edge. Jamal could feel it in the air. He had spent almost a month there and it felt like the place was alive. Like the building itself had a heartbeat made of alarms, footsteps, and metal doors. Every inmate walked differently now, slower, more careful. Even the guards avoided eye contact. That night, Jamal overheard 2 older inmates talking through the vents. "Rikers got worse since last summer," one said. "Worse than Cook County?" the other asked. The man laughed, a short, bitter sound. "Cook County got cold walls. Rikers got no soul." The next morning the tier was woken up early. "Pack it up, cell checks," yelled the officer. The search team moved through each cell, tearing through belongings, tossing mattresses, checking every corner. When they reached Jamal's cell, one officer flipped his mattress and said, "You clean up this dump when we're done." Andre sighed. "They're just looking for a reason, man." By afternoon, everyone was exhausted. The day felt longer than usual. The only break came when the water was turned back on for showers. Jamal stood under the cold stream, head tilted back, eyes closed, letting the water wash away the sting of pepper spray from the night before. For a few seconds the noise faded, and all that existed was the sound of running water. But peace never lasted long in places like this. That evening an alarm went off again, not in Jamal's block this time, but down in the intake area. Rumors spread fast. An inmate from another unit had been transferred from Cook County to Rikers for trial. "He said it's worse there," someone whispered through the bars. Jamal frowned. "Worse? How?" The man shrugged. "Said at Cook the fights never stop. Overcrowded. Half the time the guards can't even break it up. He said Rikers is bad, but at least here you know what's coming." That thought stayed with Jamal all night. Both jails, different cities, same story. Both called the worst. Both filled with men trying to survive another day. In the early hours of morning, just before the next shift change, Jamal heard something that made his blood run cold. A low mechanical buzz, then the sound of locks clicking open all at once. It wasn't time for breakfast yet. Andre looked up. "You hear that?" Before Jamal could answer, the intercom crackled to life. "Emergency lockdown, all staff to remain in place." The power flickered once. Then again. then went out completely. Darkness swallowed the block. The only light came from the faint red glow of the alarm at the end of the hall. And in that silence, Jamal realized, it didn't matter whether it was Rikers or Cook County. In the dark they were the same. The sound of something slamming echoed down the hall. Then, a single voice yelling, "They're out." The siren screamed again, louder than before. And the story wasn't over yet.